Welcome to Dreamtale Sleek Stories. Tonight's reading is Journey for the Miracle Herb. Settle into your bed or sofa and let your shoulders, jaw, and eyelids grow heavy. Inhale slowly, 1, 2, 3, and sigh the air away, allowing the day to fade into quiet dark. With every soft inhale, you invite fresh English phrases. With every gentle exhale, stray thoughts drift farther off. Behind my voice flows a gentle 528 Hz melody, renowned for guiding the mind toward deep relaxation. Keep your eyes closed or follow the captions, whichever feels right. Simply receive the rhythm and resonance of the language. Deep in rest, tonight's phrases will take root like seeds, ready to bloom into stronger English skills with the morning light. When you feel settled, hold that unhurried breath and allow yourself to drift into the tale. Journey for the Miracle Herb begins now. And when the story's final line has faded, the music will linger a little longer, carrying you gently deeper into sleep. Journey for the Miracle Herb. Kira was a 17-year-old girl who lived in a small village at the edge of the Whispering Woods with her mother, Elena. Her mother had been the village healer for many years, but now she lay in bed, growing weaker each day from a mysterious illness that no medicine could cure. "The fever won't break," Dr. Garrett told Kira one morning after examining her mother. "I've tried everything I know, but nothing works. I'm sorry, child." Kira sat beside her mother's bed, holding her hot hand. Elena's breathing was shallow, and her once bright eyes were now dull with sickness. "There must be something," Kira whispered. "Some herb or medicine that can help her." That evening, old Marcus, the village librarian, visited their cottage. He was carrying a thick, dusty book that looked very ancient. "I found this in the deepest part of the library," Marcus said, opening the book carefully. "It mentions a rare herb called Moonlight's Tear that can cure any illness, but it only grows in one place, the Crystal Caves, deep in the Shadow Peak Mountains." Kira studied the page he showed her. The herb glowed with a soft blue light in the illustration, and the text described its incredible healing powers. "Those mountains are dangerous," Marcus warned. "Many travelers have tried to reach the Crystal Caves, but few have returned. The path is guarded by bandits, wild beasts, and worse things." "I don't care about the danger," Kira said firmly. "If there's even a small chance this herb can save my mother, I have to try." Marcus looked at her with sad but understanding eyes. "There's something else, child. The book says the caves are protected by an ancient dragon called Pharos the Iron Scale. Legend claims his scales are made of pure metal, and he has guarded the caves for over 1,000 years. Kira felt fear creep into her heart, but she pushed it away. Her mother needed her to be brave. "I'll leave tomorrow morning," she announced. "Will you take care of Mother while I'm gone?" "Of course," Marcus replied. "But Kira, you should know something about yourself before you go. Your grandmother once told me you have a special gift, though I'm not sure if it's true." "What kind of gift?" Kira asked, confused. "She said you can make iron rust with just a touch," Marcus explained quietly. Your grandmother had the same ability, but she rarely spoke of it. She called it more of a curse than a blessing. Kira stared at her hands. She had always wondered why metal objects seemed to corrode quickly around her. Old keys would break in her hands, and iron nails would turn orange and crumble after she handled them. "How is that supposed to help me?" she asked. "I don't know," Marcus admitted, "but perhaps you'll discover its purpose on your journey." The next morning, Kira packed her few belongings into a leather bag. She took some bread, dried meat, a water bottle, and her mother's old traveling cloak. Before leaving, she kissed her mother's forehead. "I'll be back soon," she promised, though Elena was too sick to respond. The journey to the Shadow Peak Mountains would take at least a week on foot. Kira had never traveled so far from home, but she was determined to save her mother's life. On her first day, she walked through peaceful farmland where sheep grazed in green fields. The weather was pleasant, and Kira felt hopeful about her mission. But on the second day, she entered the dark wood forest, where the trees grew so thick that little sunlight reached the ground. The path became narrow and difficult to follow. As she walked deeper into the forest, Kira heard voices ahead. She hid behind a large oak tree and peered around its trunk. 3 rough-looking men were blocking the path, stopping other travelers and demanding payment to pass. "Pay us 5 gold coins, or find another way," the largest bandit told a merchant who was trembling with fear. "Please, I only have 2 coins," the merchant begged. "I need to reach the next town to sell my goods." "Then you can't pass," the bandit replied coldly. Kira watched as the merchant sadly turned around and walked back the way he had come. She knew she couldn't afford to pay the bandits, and there was no other path through the forest. Then she remembered what Marcus had told her about her strange ability. She had never tried to use it on purpose, but maybe now was the time to experiment. Kira waited until the bandits were distracted, then quietly approached their camp. She could see their weapons leaning against a tree, 3 iron swords and several steel knives. Taking a deep breath, Kira placed her hands on the metal weapons and concentrated hard. She imagined the iron turning orange and flaky, becoming weak and useless. To her amazement, it worked. The metal began to rust rapidly under her touch. Within minutes, the once sharp swords became brittle and corroded. However, using her power made Kira feel incredibly tired. Her head spun, and her legs felt weak, as if she had been running for hours. She managed to stumble away from the bandits' camp before they noticed what had happened. When they discovered their rusted weapons an hour later, they were so confused and frightened that they abandoned their post and fled deeper into the forest. Kira was able to continue on the path, but she learned an important lesson. Her power was useful, but it came with a price. She would need to use it carefully. On the 4th day of her journey, Kira reached the foothills of the Shadow Peak Mountains. The air became colder, and the path grew steep and rocky. She was climbing a narrow mountain trail when she heard a low, growling sound. A massive mountain wolf stepped out from behind a boulder, blocking her way. Its yellow eyes gleamed with hunger, and its sharp teeth glistened with saliva. Kira's heart pounded with terror. She had no weapon to defend herself, and the wolf looked ready to attack. Then she noticed something interesting. The wolf was wearing an old iron collar around its neck, probably placed there by hunters long ago. The metal looked old and worn. Without any other options, Kira stepped closer to the wolf, despite her fear. The animal snarled and prepared to leap at her, but Kira reached out and touched the iron collar. She focused all her energy on rusting the metal, even though she knew it would exhaust her. The collar began to corrode and crumble. As it broke apart and fell to the ground, the wolf's expression changed completely. Instead of looking fierce and angry, it now seemed calm and grateful. Kira realized that the collar had been cursed, making the wolf aggressive and violent. By destroying it, she had freed the animal from the spell. The wolf looked at her with what seemed like gratitude, then trotted away peacefully into the mountains. But using her power again had drained Kira severely. She collapsed on the rocky path, breathing heavily and feeling dizzy. It took her nearly an hour to recover enough strength to continue walking. 2 days later, Kira finally reached the entrance to the crystal caves. The opening was hidden behind a waterfall, just as the ancient book had described. She squeezed through a gap in the rocks and found herself in a tunnel that glowed with soft blue light. The walls were covered with beautiful crystals that sparkled like stars. As she walked deeper into the cave system, the light grew brighter. Soon, she could see where it was coming from. Thousands of small, luminous herbs growing from cracks in the crystal walls. "Moonlight's tear," she whispered in amazement. But as she approached the herbs, a deep, rumbling voice echoed through the cavern. "Who dares to enter my domain?" the voice boomed. Kira's blood turned cold as an enormous dragon emerged from the shadows. Pharaoh's the Iron Scale was even more terrifying than she had imagined. His scales were indeed made of metal, gleaming like polished steel in the blue light. His eyes burned like red flames, and his claws could easily tear through solid rock. "I am Kira from Greenwood Village," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "My mother is dying, and I need the Moonlight's Tear herb to save her life." The dragon studied her with his ancient, intelligent eyes. "Many have come seeking the healing herbs," he said slowly. "All have tried to steal them with force or trickery. None have succeeded. What makes you think you are different?" "I don't want to steal anything," Kira replied honestly. "I'm asking for your permission. Please, my mother will die without this medicine." Pharaoh laughed. A sound like thunder rolling through the mountains. "You are brave to come here alone, young human. But bravery is not enough. If you want the herb, you must prove you are worthy by defeating me in combat." Kira's heart sank. How could she possibly fight such a powerful dragon? She had no sword, no armor, no magical spells. "I understand if you're afraid," Pharaoh continued. "Many warriors have fled when faced with this challenge." But Kira thought of her mother, lying sick in bed, growing weaker every day. She couldn't give up now, not when she was so close to finding the cure. "I accept your challenge," she said firmly. The dragon smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Very well, but know this. I will not hold back just because you are young." Pharos lunged forward with incredible speed, his massive claws scraping against the cave floor. Kira rolled to the side, barely avoiding his attack. The dragon spun around and breathed a stream of fire that heated the air so much that Kira could barely breathe. She ran behind a large crystal formation to escape the flames. "You cannot hide forever," Pharos roared, smashing the crystal with his tail. Kira dodged again, but she knew she couldn't keep running. She needed a plan. Then she noticed something important. The dragon's metal scales weren't all the same age. Some were bright and new, but others looked older and more worn. These older scales had tiny gaps between them, where they didn't fit perfectly together. Kira realized this might be her only chance. She would have to get close enough to touch the dragon's oldest scales and rust them with her power. But it would be incredibly dangerous, and using her ability on such a large amount of metal would probably exhaust her completely. Taking a deep breath, Kira ran straight toward the dragon instead of away from him. Pharos was so surprised by this bold move that he hesitated for just a moment. That moment was all Kira needed. She leaped forward and pressed both hands against a patch of old, worn scales on the dragon's front leg. She poured all her energy into her power, focusing harder than she ever had before. The metal scales began to rust and crumble under her touch. Pharos roared in pain and surprise as several of his protective scales fell away, leaving tender skin exposed underneath. But the effort had cost Kira dearly. She collapsed to the ground, completely exhausted and barely conscious. The dragon could have easily finished her then, but instead, he stopped fighting and looked down at her with newfound respect. "Remarkable," he said quietly. "In all my years, no one has ever found a way to breach my armor. You have a rare gift, young one." Kira struggled to sit up, still weak from using her power. "Does this mean I can have the herb?" she asked hopefully. Pharos considered her question for a long moment. "You have proven your worthiness, not through strength, but through cleverness and determination. More importantly, you fought not for treasure or glory, but to save someone you love." The dragon walked over to the wall where the moonlight's tear herbs grew most abundantly. With surprising gentleness, he used one claw to carefully harvest several of the glowing plants. "Take these," he said, offering the herbs to Kira. "They will be enough to cure your mother and several other people as well." Kira accepted the precious herbs with trembling hands. Tears of joy and relief rolled down her cheeks. "Thank you," she whispered. "I'll never forget your kindness." "Before you go," Pharos said, "let me give you some advice about your gift. The power to rust iron may seem destructive, but it can also be a tool for liberation. You freed that wolf from its cursed collar, and you found a way to solve problems without causing unnecessary harm. Use your ability wisely, and it will serve you well. The journey home took another week, but Kira's heart was light with hope. She had succeeded in her impossible quest. When she finally reached her village, she found her mother even weaker than before. Dr. Garrett shook his head sadly when he saw Kira return. "I'm afraid it may be too late," he said gently. "She hasn't eaten or spoken in days." But Kira carefully prepared the Moonlight's Tear herb, exactly as the ancient book had instructed. She brewed it into a tea that glowed with the same soft blue light as the crystals in the cave. She helped her mother drink the healing potion, one small sip at a time. Within hours, Elena's fever broke. By the next morning, color had returned to her cheeks, and she was able to sit up in bed. "Kira?" she whispered, her eyes bright and clear for the first time in weeks. "What happened? I had the strangest dreams about dragons and glowing caves." Kira hugged her mother tightly, crying with happiness. "You're going to be fine, Mother. Everything is going to be fine." Over the following days, Elena grew stronger and stronger. Soon she was able to return to her work as the village healer, helping other people just as Kira had helped her. Kira never told anyone the full story of her adventure, but she kept the remaining Moonlight's Tear herbs safely hidden. She knew that someday someone else might need them. As for her special power, Kira learned to control it better and use it more efficiently. She helped people by freeing animals from cruel traps, opening locked doors for those who had lost their keys, and solving problems that others couldn't handle. She discovered that Marcus and the dragon had been right. Her gift wasn't a curse after all. It was a unique tool that, when used with wisdom and compassion, could make the world a better place. And whenever she looked at her healthy, happy mother, Kira remembered the important lesson her journey had taught her. Sometimes the greatest strength comes not from fighting harder, but from thinking differently and never giving up on the people you love. Years later, when travelers would ask her about the secret to overcoming impossible challenges, Kira would smile and say, "The answer isn't always what you expect. Sometimes the key to victory is hidden in the things that make you different."